I'm gonna do a draw my life video for my rhetoric final. My name is Carina, and I was born on August 17th, 1997, in a town called Blue Island, Illinois. I am the middle child and the only girl in my family. I have an older brother named Kevin, who is 2 years older than me, and a younger brother named Michael, who is only 15 months younger than me. Now, originally, it was only supposed to be me and Kevin, but 6 months after I was born, my mom's world turned upside down, and Michael was born. When she found out she was pregnant with Michael, she started to cry because she had no idea what she was going to do with 2 babies in her life. When she had me, she had thought that she was done with kids. You have 1 boy and 1 girl. What more could she ask for? But Michael came as a surprise to all of us. But to this day, when I ask her about Michael, she says that Michael was a gift from God himself. Hence his full name is Michael Angel Yanis, named after the angel Michael. The house that we lived in Blue Island had 2 apartments. The first one we lived in and the second one we put for rent. My mom's family lives close to our house and as well as my dad's, but we always spent more time with my mom. We'd go on many road trips together, driving, and we always went to Florida in the summers. My 2 cousins, Rosie and Vanessa, they always came on our road trips to Florida, and it was a blast having them. Since I was the only girl, they filled in the spots as being a sister for me, because my brothers couldn't. Believe it or not, the people who lived in the 2nd floor ended up setting our house on fire, so we had to live in a hotel for a while as they repaired our house. In Blue Island, my best friend was my next door neighbor, and that was the best thing ever. His grandma would always pick us up from school since my parents always worked, so we'd always spend our afternoons at his house, which was a blast. One day, me and my best friend decided to race across the street, and when we did, everything went dark. Realized that we both had gotten hit by a car, and keep in mind we were only like 5 at this time. The ambulance came and they took us away, took us to the hospital. That was the scariest part of my life. I was blacked out, I barely remembered anything. Well, a couple months after that, we ended up moving to Plainfield, Illinois. We had this big house and everyone had their own room. Back in Blue Island, we all shared a room. My grandma, she finally had her own room, and it was a blast. She's been in our lives ever since we were all a baby. The best thing ever. She always go on our road trips to Florida. Anywhere we went, she'd tag along. A couple years later, I found my passion for music and I loved it. My grandma always supported me in it. I attempted to play the piano, but it didn't turn out so great. To this day, I only know how to play 1 song on the piano. That's it. So that was a no for me. Going into high school, marching band was mandatory for all freshmen, and I ended up loving it. My sophomore year, I decided to switch instruments. I didn't want to play flute anymore in marching band, so I decided to do trumpet. Growing up, my grandma would always tell everyone, but especially me, that she wasn't going to be here when I turned 15, when I had my big 15th party. And I told her she was wrong, that she will be here. She will always be here with us. Well, my grandma, since she was old, all she did was sleep or watch TV. But the problem with my grandma was when she slept, she'd always take sleeping pills. and she kept taking them until she fell asleep. A couple weeks before July 2nd, my grandma went to her doctor's office and asked for stronger sleeping pills because she was very impatient. She wanted to sleep right away. On July 2nd, it was the worst day of my life. That week, my cousin Vanessa was staying with us for a week. We were all excited. We were happy she was going to stay with us. But that Monday morning, as we were watching TV, once my grandma entered the room, we realized something was wrong. She was drowsy. She could barely walk. Me and Kevin had jumped out of our seats and held her for a while, and then we walked her over to the kitchen table and sat her down on a chair. After that, we poured her a bowl of cereal so she could have breakfast. We went back to watching TV, but then a couple minutes later we heard this big bang, and when we turned around we realized that my grandma had dropped her bowl of cereal. I called my mom right away to let her know what was going on, and she told us to just bring my grandma to her room and put her on her bed so she can sleep, and that's exactly what we did. A couple minutes later, though, we heard this big boom. I ran downstairs and realized that my grandma had fallen off her bed. I was shocked. When I went up close to her, I realized she was still sleeping even though she had fallen off her bed. I decided to leave her like that. It was the worst decision of my life. Because 5 minutes later, my grandma had stopped breathing. And I was in shock. I called my mom right away. I told her what happened. I told her that she stopped breathing. My mom called the ambulance. They arrived 5 to 10 minutes later, and then paramedics took my grandma away. I had faith though. I believed that she could survive this, that they could bring her back and she'd survive. As they took her away though, we were all left there, standing there crying, hoping that we'd see her again. I called my uncles and cousins and I let them know what was going on. An hour later, my dad came to us all and told us to get ready, told us that we were going to the hospital, but he didn't give us any information about my grandma. And I was worried. We drove down to the hospital. We went to the emergency room. When I walked in, my uncles and some of my cousins were already there, as well as my mom. When I saw my mom's face though, I knew we were going to hear bad news. But I still went up to her anyways. I needed to know if my grandma was okay or not. I had Kevin and Michael and Vanessa followed behind me. And when I walked up to her, I asked her, and I hoped that the answer was yes, but I asked her if our grandma was alive, if she was still okay, if we can go see her. And the response I got was the worst. She had told me that my grandma was gone, that she was in heaven, she was dead. And I swear my own heart stopped beating. I couldn't believe it. I felt like my heart was broken. My grandma was like a second mother to all of us, but mainly to me, Kevin, and Michael. It felt like there was this big hole in my heart, and I was in denial. I couldn't believe that she was gone. I always thought I had more time with her, but my grandma was right. She was gone before I turned 15, before my big 15th party. I was devastated, but life had to go on. I had to work hard at school. Luckily, I had my friends there, and they helped me get through this. My uncle ended up living with us for a while to fill the emptiness that we felt in our house. But a couple months later he left, and that emptiness is back. But it was okay, because a couple months after that, my cousin, her son, lived with us. And a couple months after that, we got our puppy Lulu. And even though it didn't fill that hole, it didn't fill the hole in my heart, but I was able to patch it up. Because I knew that one day I will see my grandma. Even though that day is not now. We will reunite one day. I just have to be patient about it. In the meantime, I keep my heart patched, that hole patched. And everything will be fine. No one's ever alone in this world. Everyone will lose someone close to them. But they'll never be alone. It will be really hard to continue to live your life when that one person so close to you is gone. But you're never alone dealing with it. You'll always have friends and family there to help you during this time of hurt. And that's what I had, and I'm glad. I distracted myself a lot though to put that hurt at ease. But I know one day I'll see her.